Oh, yeah. Who's ready to have some fun today? Anybody? Yeah? Come on. We're going to have some fun starting off this new series, Stuck in Your Head. And you know this, there are songs that come up and you just start listening to them and they get kind of stuck in your head. In fact, right now in the nation that we live in, okay, all across actually the world, one song is actually standing above all of them, and it's by Ella Langley. Who's our Ella Langley fans out there? Come on, we've got a few. She's from Texas, I can tell. If you don't know that song, that's all you, okay? These songs come up, and maybe we identify with them in different ways. Maybe they define for us, if you have a song, maybe in your own past, a part of your season of life. Maybe it was a generational thing for you. Songs matter because they connect with our emotions. As we was thinking about this series going into the summer, we thought, what if we do something that's slightly different and we take a song from culture and then we talk through kind of what they're actually speaking about, the things that they are speaking into. This is something that Paul did on several different occasions. Paul would go into a different culture, a different context. He would be missionaries just like Jared and Stephanie, who, by the way, I love that they're with us today. And he would go in there and he would think through all the possibilities of what's going on. So when he was in Crete, he would quote the Cretan poets or their prophets. When he was in Athens, he would actually quote from one of their prophets, several of them. In Acts 17, there's this moment where he's speaking out to them and he says God did this so that they would seek him and perhaps reach out for him and find him through, he is not far from any one of us. For in him we live and move and have our being. That actually comes from a poet. As some of your own poets have said, we are his offspring. Meaning he's connecting something from their culture into a way to help them see God. And so we've decided we want to have a little bit of fun throughout this series for 6 weeks only, and we're going to have different speakers come out. We're going to have guys like Nate. We'll have Jessica back on stage, others that kind of connect with different kind of songs, but also what we're going to say is different psalms along the way. But this week, we're going to actually go to a song from culture, a one-hit wonder, and I'm going to invite our band back out to give you kind of a couple of kind of bars on this so you can kind of say, oh yeah, I remember that song. This one was by The Verge, okay? It was a one-hit wonder called Bittersweet Symphony, where they were struggling with all the pressures of life and the idea that I need to be a million different people from one day to the next. You might remember that song, but maybe we just need to jog your memory for just a moment. So let's give it up for our band and let's have some fun. Wouldn't mind seeing those guys on karaoke night, all right? You know, in that song, there's this pattern, this theme, this conviction that nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to change. And maybe the world that we live in, that is the mantra, that nothing can change over and over and over again. Not the hardships, that life gets hard, that there's so many different things. In fact, in the middle of that, you become somebody different along the way. In that song, one of the lyrics I just read through, which kind of speaks into our series, says, well, I've never prayed, but tonight I'm on my knees. Yeah. I need to hear some sounds that recognize the pain in me. I connect with that thought. I think through that. That's maybe somebody's story in this room today, where you felt like in some way, shape, or form, you've went to your knees, you've felt the burdens of this world, you're praying, and you want to hear a sound that recognizes the sound or recognizes the pain in you, the thoughts you have, the things that you're going through, your real life story. That's what I love about our book in the Bible known as the Psalms. And we're going to spend time in this book, and I believe the Psalms speak into this. It actually tells us that our God does recognize the sound. He recognizes the emotions of the pain that we're in. In fact, this is what Eugene Peterson says. The Psalms often reach into the hurt and difficulty of being a human being. Each one of these psalms are different and unique expressions of God. These psalms would have been something that would have been stuck in their head as they would have sang them out. They would have shared them in different moments. They were psalms that spoke into those situations in their lives. And unlike what culture might say, this is going to bring hope into those stories. What we're going to do is we're going to look at Psalm 37 today. We're going to spend some time there. And if you have your Bibles, go ahead and start turning to Psalm 37. Psalm 37 speaks into a situation of which somebody was just saying, I'm looking around, I'm seeing the culture, I'm seeing everything. It feels like the people on the other side of God, the people who do not care about God, it feels like they are succeeding. Like they seem to have it going well for their lives. And here I am believing, yet it doesn't feel like God is close. This psalm in Psalm 37 is written by David at the end of his life. And he starts off with these words in Psalm 37, verse 1, simply saying this: do not fret because of those who are evil, or be envious of those who do wrong. For like the grass, they will soon wither. Like green plants, they will soon die away. Trust in the Lord and do good. Dwell in the land and enjoy safe pasture. Take delight in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. Commit your ways to the Lord. Trust in him, and he will do this. He will make your righteous reward shine like the dawn, your vindication like the noonday sun. Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him. Do not fret when people succeed in their ways. When they carry out their wicked schemes, refrain from anger and turn from wrath, and do not fret. It leads only to evil. For those who are evil will be destroyed, but those who hope in the Lord will inherit the land. A little while, the wicked will be no more. But though you look for them, they will not be found. But the meek will inherit the land and enjoy peace and prosperity. These verses speak out. We want to unpack these verses today and dive in even deeper into these verses, because these verses would speak over a generation of people wondering, why is it that the bad guys seem to always win? Why is it that they somehow get an opportunity to do great things? How is it that they're doing well and I'm here believing and don't fully feel like anything's changing? Psalm 37 is this beautiful psalm of which David's trying to help people see and understand that when it comes to life, a life that maybe feels like there's a lot happening, that there's so much more that you need to see, that maybe in the middle of this, you're not seeing it clearly. Jesus actually quotes from this psalm, and he kind of gets into the Sermon on the Mount, and he's going through different beatitudes, and he'll say this: blessed are the poor, or blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. Or he'll say, blessed are those who are the meek. That very last verse right there, for they will inherit the earth. Jesus saw this understanding that there's a better way of seeing through the circumstances that you're in, the things that are happening. Maybe you look around and the world does feel messed up. The world does feel like there's a lot happening. The emotions of that actually hit you at times. And yet it's not always the right conclusion to believe. In fact, I'll say this psalm and this series are going to help us understand that there are maybe right observations, but wrong conclusions. Meaning maybe you see things like somebody succeeding, you see something that's happening, or you say, man, it feels like life isn't fair, and you observe those things, and it feels like, man, it hurts sometimes. It hurts when someone gets promoted and they're not the one who's doing their job with integrity. It hurts when someone cheats and they still succeed. Someone is maybe the bully doesn't get punished, or someone hurts someone you love and they don't get the same consequences that you or others would have gotten. Sometimes it happens so much that you start believing that's just the way the world is. As that song we just kind of talked about, beautiful, or Bittersweet Symphony says, no change, no change, no change. It's a right observation. There are things that happen in our world that are hard, things that are difficult. But the psalmist would say in Psalm 37, you've got the wrong conclusion. What if there is more to the situation? What if God has a long view plan? What if we could trust God in the middle of all the things that we experience in life? What if there's more to it than just the moments we experience that and we say to ourselves, it's just not fair. I guess life isn't fair. What if it's a calling for each one of us to surrender the conclusions we've made? You see, David's at the very end of his life writing this out. And maybe he's experienced life just like any one of us and said the same things. And so he understands there's a level of surrender that we all need. We have to surrender our conclusions to God. We have to surrender our conclusions to God. Meaning maybe we didn't get it all right. Maybe we need to learn something in the world that we live in. That first line is something that I believe does get stuck in people's head because he says these three words, do not fret. Because of those who are evil or be envious of those who do wrong. Do not fret. That's big, and it begins something that David's trying to communicate, express. What I love about the Psalms is that this is a beautiful moment because he's not just writing this out. We maybe see this and we say, oh yeah, it's a great psalm. There's some great words in here, but there's some poetry to this. You may not catch the melody of it, but there's poetry to this. In fact, in the Hebrew, this is actually one of those particular psalms and one of those writings that would actually be a form of poetry that's really quite simple. It's an alphabetic acrostic, meaning each one of the stanzas, each one of these things start with a new and different letter. So it'd be an alphabetical acrostic, meaning the first one would start with the letter A and then B. And you might say, okay, what's the third letter? Anybody? C. You might think that, right? But we're talking Hebrew here, okay? So it's going to be G, A, B, G. In fact, there's only 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet. That's a few short of our alphabet. But in this, the beauty of this psalm, and if you love art, you get to see the details and all those things, and you mix them together. And if you love seeing that kind of artistic expression, David loves to do that. The book of Psalms loves to do that, where they express in a very poetic way, artistic way, the truths of God. What I want to do is actually walk through each one of those letters and then talk through each one of those at the rest of our time, giving us a few different points. Starting with the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet, Aleph. And you could spell this differently. There's a couple of ways you can spell this out, but that first letter I would say is attitude. Do not fret. David says you got to have the right attitude when you approach this. He says do not fret 3 different times in this text. That word for fret that could be worry, anxious, or feeling unnecessarily concerned, meaning you're feeling over the top, is also the Hebrew word that means to be kindled. It's like a fire that has went from flames to kindling. Do not fret. It starts with the letter A in their alphabet. It is understanding that we need to start from the beginning, where our emotions kind of get going, where something has kindled a fire inside of you. I wonder where that might happen. You might know maybe a few things that come up. I know in my own life, when I'm driving behind somebody, my fire gets kindled a little bit. Just need to know that. Sometimes I'm following somebody, and I do say that. When you feel like you've gotten bad service at a restaurant, and you feel this, and your fire gets a little bit kindled. And I've seen this in restaurants, not here, none of you people would do this, where all of a sudden you don't get the right meal, something happens, and this person, the server, who's just getting their first job, seems like the very person you need to take it out on. You want to find somebody whose fires are getting lit? Just go to any sporting event in America ever, okay? I don't care if it's the World Cup today, all right, makes sense. Or if we're watching 6-year-olds play soccer, okay? You will see parents lose their minds over anything and everything. There are moments where we think there's things specifically designed within our algorithms. This is the rage bait click, something that's designed to get you kind of fired up. And so people get all fired up. And here's the funny thing, some of the times it's not even real stuff. You clicked on something, it was fake. Somebody just wanted to drive you. The algorithm got you there. You got excited about it. You then got enraged by it, and you had words to say. But the psalm says over and over again, do not fret. You see, we live in a world that's designed to play into your emotions, to build up something inside of you. And it could be anger. Maybe it's anxiety. This isn't a sermon on anxiety, but it's a very real emotion. It gets built up inside of you and it gets uncontrollable. It keeps moving and moving and moving. And he's saying, do not fret. Do not get worked up. Do not go past the place where you are actually going to make a mistake. In verse 8, he says it this way, refrain from anger or turn from wrath. Do not fret. It leads only to evil. David is saying you can let your anger, your anxiety go one step further than it needs to, and all of a sudden it changes your attitude about the way you see this world, about the way that you live. We all feel things, that's normal. We all understand there's emotions in life. But when you've worked up to a certain point, when you're so worked up, that anything and everything feels overwhelming, all of a sudden you start to lose sight of who God is really. We could talk about different verses that Jesus says, do not worry, don't worry about those things. This week in my devotional time in Luke chapter 12, Jesus actually says, you know what? You want to think about worry? Think about it in this way. I tell you, my friends, do not be afraid of those who kill the body and after that can do no more. But I will show you whom you should fear. Fear him who after your body has been killed has the authority to throw you into hell. Yes, I tell you, fear him. Are not 5 sparrows sold for 2 pennies? Yet not one of them is forgotten by God. Indeed, the very hairs on your head are all numbered. Don't be afraid. You are worth more than many sparrows. Jesus says if you're thinking about life, there's nothing that can harm you. And even if it does, even if it takes you to the point of death, the only one worthy of any type of fear would be our Lord and God, the only one who has authority over your eternal life. So you don't have nothing to worry about. He cares for you. He values you. He knows every hair on your head, which for some of you, he knows really well. Others of us, he only knows 50% of us. But again, that first letter, Alpha, you got to have an attitude. What's your attitude like? What's God putting on your heart? Where have you gotten too worked up and it led to anger or maybe anxiety? Let's go with number 2, the letter B or Beth. And I would say this means you have to believe, or as they say, trust in the Lord. The antidote is actually put all your trust in the Lord. It means you have to give up control of the things going on around you. You have to give up this mindset and say, I'm going to trust God, the God over the universe, the God who's put it all in place, the one who sets the stars in place, the one who has set all things in place. I'm going to put him in control. But that's hard to do because we like to reach for control. Every one of us finds ourselves reaching for a level of control. Every one of us tries to reach for some sort of control of our future. Maybe it's a relationship, it's our kids, it's our health, our finances. It could be our reputation. Maybe it's a political ideology or the idea that we should run the world. Maybe we would get this right if we did it, and we know this, we can barely run our own world, let alone the world. But can you just trust for a moment that God's got this, that God's in this, that God's over all of this? Can you take all those worries, all that anger, and all this feeling of being overwhelmed and say, I gotta do something with this. I gotta actually bring it to God. Do you really trust God? That's hard to do when you're looking around. That's hard to do when all you're doing is not keeping your eyes up here, but you're looking around and you're seeing it everywhere else. And that's exactly what the psalmist is saying. You've got your eyes on all these other things. You're comparing your life to their life. You're looking at them and saying, I wish I was maybe on the other side of this. I wish my life was better on this side. Why do they always seem to succeed and I always seem to do this? You're taking this, you're comparing yourself, your circumstances, and you're putting your eyes in the wrong place. And friends, sometimes we just have to replace our anxious comparison with trust in God. We have to replace our anxious comparisons with trust in God, saying, you know what, I'm not going to compare my life to another. I'm not going to keep putting my eyes on other things. I'm not going to see what's online to kind of compare that to how our family is doing. I want to trust in God. Psalmist says in that first stanza, you have to have this attitude, this understanding that we are not going to fret. The second stanza would be to believe. There's a third one. As we said, it's not C, it would be Gimel, to give. Again, within the text, it says, commit your ways to the Lord. I would also say that word commit is to roll, meaning as you're spending time with this, you're rolling this from one side to the next. And the way that word would be used is if there was a heavy weight on your shoulders and you were going to roll it over to the Lord's. It's like a big stone that you've been carrying for some time. And some of you walked in here with a stone that seems like a ton on your back, and it seems so overwhelming. And the truth is, you've been carrying it day in and day out. That's what you've been taught, that you've got this. You're going to take care of this, that you're going to be able to handle this. All of a sudden, you've got to be able to do this. And it's not what the Bible teaches, that you don't have to carry this weight alone, that you have to carry the weight of your shoulder on your shoulders of your family, your finances, all those things. Some of us seemingly feel like we just have to carry it ourselves, and it's breaking our backs. And so we do get overwhelmed. We do get upset from time to time. Little things that shouldn't trigger us are triggering us because it seems like we're already carrying so much. Yet Jesus comes along with a very simple invitation. Roll that weight onto my shoulders. He says, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me. For I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. Meaning you could roll your problems onto the arms of Jesus, and he wants to carry them with you so that you can not fret, so that you can say, I trust in God. So that you could take the weight of the world and put it on his shoulders, because his shoulders are built for the weight of the world. Yours are not. Yet one of the hardest things that I'm going to say today is going to come right here. I'm going to say this, and I'm not meaning to offend anybody here, but this is something I've seen over and over again. That some of you would rather continue to live with the burden, the pressure, the anxiety, with the things that are building into that, than fully give it to God. You feel more comfortable with stress than you do rest. And say, no, not me, Dave. That's somebody else. I know that's somebody else. No. You ever give something to God? You ever pray about it, give it over to God? And then somewhere along the way, you started to go back and you're like, I want to pick that back up. And you put it back on your shoulders and you say, well, I'm thinking about my kids, or I'm thinking about my finances. I'm so overwhelmed. And you actually feel more comfortable with the stress in your life instead of the rest, because if the rest comes along, you feel like you're not being productive, like you're not doing something, like there's not something to be said or done or to get worked up about, to really get going about it and to actually put it on everybody else. And you're just like, ah! Instead of saying, you know what, I'm just going to I'm going to keep that on God's shoulders. I'm not saying you can't pray about it, but what I've seen with so many people is that they think, okay, I gave it to God, but you gave it to God for a brief moment and then you picked it back up. You gave it to him and then you picked it right back up and you picked up right where you started off. Or maybe you go so far as this, is if you're really struggling with maybe some feelings that get amped up like anxiety or other things, what are you willing to give up to get to that point? What are you're willing to look at and say, that's a source of my anxiety? And yet for some people, they're unwilling to give that up, meaning I'm not going to delete that app. I'm not going to let go of my phone, or I'm not going to step away from a situation long enough, because what if I do that? Then I'm going to be left out. I'm not going to be a part of that. But I'm going to really just try to manage my stress or my anxiety instead of truly rolling it over to Jesus. Saying, I don't need that app. I don't need to be in that circumstance anymore. You see, I see a lot of people who want to let go of things, but they're unwilling to let go of the source of those things. They're unwilling to say, you know what, I'm actually going to stop. You know, Jesus is saying, just roll it on over to me. I would love to walk with you, so that you could be set free. Now, there is something hard to this, and I'm going to say that. It is so hard. In the final stanza, we only have time for 4 letters. Good news, we weren't going to go through all 22, okay? Letter number 4 is D. And you would, again, Delth or death. Delth, the H is kind of one of those pronounced letters, is depend. And it says, be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him. Friends, one of the things that you've got to do and be willing to understand is that whatever you're going through, whatever the circumstances are, you've got to be willing to stop long enough and say, okay, I'm not just going to do this and then kind of, within the week, figure out if God's got this. No, I'm going to give it to him forever. And that means at some level, I have to be still and wait patiently. It means I got to put it on God's timing and not mine. It means I got to go one step further and saying, God, if you want to wait another week, another month, another year, another decade, I trust that it's in your hands. I'm not going to fret about it. I'm not going to spend time getting so worked up about it. No. I'm going to keep giving it back to you. And God, I'm waiting on your time. I wonder for some of you, if waiting is the one thing you've got to do, you just got to stop and wait patiently on the Lord, to be still and to say, you know what, I'm depending on him. I'm not going to move unless he calls me to move. I'm not going to change unless he calls me to change. If the circumstances require a decade or longer, God, I'm going to wait on the Lord. You see, all throughout Scripture, that's one of the stories that come up over and over again, and it's hard to wait. You can ask Abraham. Abraham's this guy who was told he was going to have a kid, and he's like, okay, I'm pretty old now, God. Is this going to be next year? No, not next year. It kept going year after year after year until Abraham is almost 100 years old. His wife's 90, and the thought of having a kid, man, it's a laughing matter. One of the biggest issues that come up over and over again in Scripture is people who are unwilling to wait. But again, Jesus shows us the way. In his ministry, he said, you know what, this is how we do it. This is how we do it. He says, Jesus gave them this answer. Very truly, I tell you, the Son can do nothing by himself. He can do only what he sees his Father doing, because whatever the Father does, the Son also does. He said, the way you navigate life is you let the Father lead. The way you navigate whatever circumstance you're going through is let the Father lead you. The way that you handle a circumstance, the way that you handle even your own emotions is saying, I'm bringing this to God. I'm trusting in him. And no matter what else goes on in this world, I've got Jesus. So Jesus is going to guide me. Jesus is going to direct me. Jesus is going to show me what it looks like. And maybe the circumstances are this way. Maybe people in this world do succeed who don't belong. Maybe those who cheat do make their way up. Maybe all those things happen. But we do believe in the middle of that God is ultimately enough for us. So maybe one question as we step into this, maybe it's the question we all wrestle with at some level, if we're being really honest, is simply this: is Jesus enough? Is he enough for your family? Is he enough for your circumstances? Is he enough if you don't get all the riches of this world? Is he enough if you feel like, man, I don't feel like I have all the things figured out? Is Jesus enough for you? I want to give you 1 minute where you're sitting to think, pray, and process through that very question. Is Jesus enough?